Hi, everyone who already joined. Here's Jacob. We'll wait 2 to 3 more minutes to give the other participant chance to join. We're now 8 of 34, so let's wait 2 to 3 minutes and then we'll kick it off. Okay, nice. 2 minutes are over. I suggest we start. And I would say good afternoon or good morning, evening, depending on where you're located, to everyone. And welcome to today's webinar. My name is Jacob Kobler, and I'm the moderator for today. I'm supporting the Web3 Finance Club. And as you know, Web3 Finance Club is the leading community of finance leaders in Web3. It's quite a selective group of finance people with an acceptance rate of only 17%, but we are growing with over 10% every month. Close to 1,000 people already within the community. And the goal is for sure to connect the brightest minds in Web3 finance. I myself also work at Request Finance, but now I would like to start and introduce you to our speakers today. We have two experienced Web3 leaders. To start with, there is Bentzi Rabi, the CEO and co-founder of Utila, and there's Luke Thibodeau, the CFO of Próspera. I will give a short intro about these two companies. First of all, Próspera. It's a visionary government platform at the forefront of developing new cities within special economic zones. And the work of Próspera is establishing a reliable infrastructure for vital and attracting and supporting diverse businesses to grow and learn from each other. On the other hand, we have Utila, and Utila has emerged as one of the key solutions for managing crypto assets across multiple chains, wallets, and is known for simplicity, security, and efficiency. Utila addresses the challenges for organization to handle the problem with crypto finance and handle everything in an efficient way. In today's session, we'll now explore different approaches to handle Web3 finance problems and the complexity of it. And we will dive into different stories, challenges, lessons learned from both the speakers today, Luke and Bentzi. And I would suggest we kick it off. And I would like to start with a question that goes to Luke. And I would like to ask you if you could briefly introduce Próspera and also its mission in how to develop new cities.
Yeah, thanks, Jacob. So at its core, Próspera has designed a governance platform as governance as a service. We've identified, the key reason that a lot of countries and economies don't prosper is not because of a lack of, resources, necessarily natural resources, or a lack of interest from foreign direct investment. But it's actually, it's a governance issue. It's a lot of economic development trapped in poor governance. So Próspera at its core has designed a governance platform where we seek to catalyze economic development with city-scale projects. Okay, so right now our flagship city is located in Roatan in Honduras. And our flagship city, commonly known as St. John's Bay, is a free private charter city that's located inside of the special economic zone that Honduras has created. It's called a ZA, or a zone for economic and employment, basically. So that's our key mandate, is to spur the economy and create jobs, basically, through good governance.
Nice, very interesting. And to continue with you, Bentzi, could you tell us more about the story behind Utila?
Yeah, of course. So maybe I will start with a funny fact that Utila is an island also that is located very close to where Luke is right now, to Próspera. Visited there maybe 10 years ago. The story of Utila is that, we started our journey 2 years ago, and I think the reason we did it is because the way we look at crypto is that, so far it was mostly been around trading, I would say, and especially looking at the institutional wallet side, and we start to see the shift of crypto from being like only like a trading product to becoming a core infrastructure for financial services. And I would say there are two main drives for that. One is everything around payments and stable coins, which is the first thing. The second thing is the tokenization of real world assets, like excluding stable coins. We believe that the next 5-10 years in crypto will be mostly around this. If you look at the volumes of stablecoin settlement, they grew like 15 times over the last 4 years. The number of like active wallets holding stablecoins, etc., tokenization is expected to be at least 2 trillions. That's like only in 2030. That's like only a recent research by McKinsey. So we decided to build the best operational wallet for this new world of crypto, and to put a main effort on two types of challenges. One is, I would say, traditional challenges. Okay, so every organization that needs to hold crypto, to manage crypto, to issue tokens, etc. They have like, first of all challenges. I would say security risk, operational risk, like how do you manage keys, how do you manage wallets, how do you manage users, etc. And they have also new challenges. What are the new challenges? How do you manage gas, right? In a world of like payments, this is becoming even more a crucial thing. How do you solve privacy issues, right? That's like another challenge. How do you securely interact with smart contracts, okay? In a new economy where there are new on-chain products for yield, for other stuff, so you also need these kind of things. And that's the things that we are solving, okay? So we build a full operational platform, I would say, for organizations that provide them the abilities to securely, I would say, manage your crypto operations, mostly around payments and tokenization of assets.
Cool. Thanks a lot for that, Bentzi. And I assume all the problems that you just described, Luke, you also maybe already experienced. So I would be interested in to learn also how Utila became a key solution for you and your finance team to manage your crypto finances in an efficient way.
Yeah, that's a good question. When you're integrating crypto at an enterprise level, it's different than when you're holding it yourself. I want to highlight that first, right? When you're holding crypto on an individual basis, there's ways to secure that. There's best practices that you would follow. There's hardware wallets and devices, and these are all things that you would do individually. When you look at and you expand that out corporately or at an enterprise level, there has to be extra layers of controls and standards of practice and restrictions that you build into the process that make it secure, right? You don't want anybody, any one person in the organization to have all the control, all the power. And that's where Utila came in as a key piece to that puzzle for us on our digital asset management strategy, I'll call it, right? So we have, multi-sig wallets are a common solution. But the problem with a multi-sig wallet in its core is that you have multiple signers on a single blockchain. So you can have a multi-sig wallet on Ethereum and the Ethereum tokens. You can have a multi-sig wallet on Bitcoin or on the Bitcoin blockchain, but it's going to be a different process for each one. What Utila does very nicely is they integrate all of those blockchains and possible tokens that we're working with. We primarily work with Bitcoin as a treasury asset and with a stable coin as a payments asset. And they integrate all of those different intricacies between the blockchains into one platform that we can designate signers for, and we can create restrictions that reflect the real world controls that we have in place. So it gets really interesting when you're, a nerd like me, when you're talking about corporate governance and you have these restrictions. So you can have, a board mandated spending policy, and with Utila's product, you can basically replicate that, in Web3. You can replicate that with how you actually interact with the platform. You can say, I want my controller to have, spending authority up to this, and if it's above that, then I want my, finance manager this, and if above that, then my CFO or CEO. Or you can kind of, adapt it to follow the corporate mandate. So that's where, we found tremendous value in a solution like Utila. Corporately, we have a mandate to, hold our money in the best known money to mankind, which is Bitcoin. So corporately, we hold, our lion's share of Bitcoin, just on a Bitcoin multi-sig wallet. But where our day-to-day spend is interacting with vendors and with employees, both in and out, that's where we use Utila. And it streamlines a lot of the operations because it's, one other thing I'd highlight is it's very automated that way. If you're doing multi-sig in a Bitcoin standard, you're doing multiple signers that come together and create a multi-sig wallet and share the ZPub, it's called, with each other to create a wallet. And then if you want to create a transaction and send a transaction, I have to sign it and then send up, it's called a partially signed Bitcoin transaction to you, Jacob. You sign it and then you send it to Bentzi. He signs it and publishes it. Like, it's a very clunky process, but it's very secure and very safe. So, on the treasury side, we opt for that clunky but safe process. But on the operational side, we opt for a more streamlined process using Utila's platform. Hopefully that makes sense.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing this. And Bentzi, you're building crypto finance software, so you for sure have unique insights. And what would you say are the main challenges like organizations are facing nowadays when working with crypto on a daily business basis?
So I would say a lot of challenges. I think that the first challenge is the security. I think that as Luke mentioned before, when you hold crypto just for yourself, it's a very different story than when you are holding it as an organization. Besides the value of the funds, you also have more people who can touch the funds, and this can create a lot of risk. And you also interact with a lot of different counterparties, which is another risk. So I would say security in general, and security is like the key management. How do you do it in the right way? The second thing is how do you manage users and permissions and internal procedures, internal policies. So you want some people to be able to access the funds, but to have only a view option. And you want some other people that can access the funds and they can actually be an admins. And some people maybe somewhere in the middle, they can maybe initiate transactions, they can be initiators, but not necessarily sign them. You also want to set limits, so in many ways you want something like what you have in traditional, I would say, like bank accounts or corporate spend management platforms. You have at least the same kind of experience here when it comes to user management, when it comes to let's say interacting with any counterparty that you work for, with like a vendor or a contract for. So you want to mitigate risk on moving the funds to the wrong entity. So you also would like to have a whitelisting mechanism to make sure that also no one from the team is moving the funds to his, partner wallet by mistake. And so that's another thing. So that's about the security. Besides that, you have some other challenges. So one challenge is, of course, how you track all of your assets and your balances today, historically. How do you do accounting on top of that? Some of the things actually we solve. Some of the things we have partners that are solving well. Anything around AML, KYT. Right now, you have stuff also coming in Europe, for example, with MiCA, so you need to take care of travel rule, for example, which is a relatively new thing. So how to do it in the right way, how you can interact with banking services. Okay, let's say you got money in crypto, you got paid in crypto as a business, but in the end of the day, most of your spendings are in fiat. You need to pay salaries in fiat. You will need to pay rent for your office in fiat. And then you need an easy way how you can convert this money, this crypto into fiat in a very easy way, or how you can do crypto to fiat payments, right, from directly. So I know, so some of the things can be done via platforms like Web3Finance. Some others, they just prefer to offer them to their own bank account and do everything from there. So for them, actually, we do have a direct connectivity to bank accounts in many geographies, so you can just easily on or off ramp stable coins to and from your bank account whenever you are getting paid, want to pay. So that's another challenge that we see. There are also more like upcoming challenges. So I would say, how do in crypto, the best thing is that everything is fast. I can move money from, here to Australia in like less than 60 seconds, but then everything is public, right? And what if I want everyone to know how much I'm paying to each person and how much I'm getting paid from everyone? Okay, so I might want to have some a privacy layer, and this is like a new challenge. And some would solve it by using like exchange as a mixture. There might be some other developments. So that's another challenge that we see. I was trying to focus only on a few because I think we can do just a 60-minute call just on the challenges. But I think there are many challenges, and we are trying to cover all of them, or at least most of them.
Thanks a lot, Bentzi. That was already a long list of challenges. So we heard security, user management, accounting, EML, KYT, MiCA, privacy, an upcoming challenge. So just to give the same question also to Luke now, is there anything that Bentzi did not mention, anything you would add from your CFO perspective?
Yeah, I think he hit on a lot of the good ones, and those are common threads across any entity for sure. I think the off ramp is a pretty significant one. You can exist within a crypto standard, but at the end of the day, there's going to be merchants, and there's going to be for us, the lumber supplier down the road who's not going to take a stable coin as payment. So figuring out the off ramp is pretty significant, and that sort of bridges into some of the challenges on the traditional fiat standard, right? For us, one challenge, and my background, I've run into this a lot, but one challenge is the fact that banks and banking are so jurisdictionally regulated. So you have a bank in Canada, and you can onboard with that as a Canadian entity or as a foreign entity. And then if you want to do operations in the US, it's ground zero. Then you got to start from scratch, find banking in the US. And if you want to do banking in Guatemala, same thing, start from scratch. Jump over to Honduras, start from scratch. So banking is very jurisdictionally regulated, and that makes the off-ramp hard to solve for, because the off-ramp essentially is just turning your crypto into fiat. And it's that bridge point where you need the banking system to basically, play along. So that's a challenge we've run into for us for sure, is you're sort of at the mercy of banks and banking. But yeah, the other challenges that Bentzi highlighted are certainly worth, noting. I think if you're new to the crypto space, and if you're new to Web3, making sure that you're getting, some memos in place, for those accounting challenges, if there's changes in the value of the cryptocurrency, how does that impact your income statement? You know, is it revaluation? Does it go to other comprehensive income? It's less straightforward than you might think. Thankfully, you know, in Próspera, we've made Bitcoin not only a legal tender, but also a unit of account. So you can exist and do your accounting within a Bitcoin standard without having to convert. So that makes it easy for a lot of businesses, you know, function in Bitcoin and then pay your taxes in Bitcoin. You don't have to, you know, play the conversion game. But for most businesses, you know, around the world, they're not going to have that luxury. So that's a pretty significant piece. And I'd say, you know, the other challenge is more so just around general education. You know, my background is in Bitcoin, is in crypto. I understand it fairly well. I think, you know, the more you understand crypto, the more you realize you don't understand crypto. So I mean, there's always learning to be had. But one challenge I've faced is, you know, trying to implant that knowledge into the stakeholders that I have. So, you know, my board of directors, making them comfortable with the way that we're, you know, safeguarding these digital assets. That's a big challenge. And I think education needs to be a key component of sort of the digitization of money in a general sense, because it's different, right? When I try and explain a multi-sig, you know, when I try and explain something that I think is like a multi-sig structure for a hardware wallet in Bitcoin to these guys, it's like they think I'm, you know, talking about building rocket ships, right? And then I bridge that into something that's even more Utila is doing. You have MPC, and you're basically like splitting it out an even different way. It's like it's very hard off what they don't understand. They'll sort of, you know, put it to the side if they don't understand it. And I think that's a lot of, you know, missed potential. So I think education is a big piece of of sort of how this all comes together.
Cool. Thanks for that. I think we covered the topic of current challenges quite well. And in the beginning, Luke, I remember you mentioned that you value a lot that Utila is providing a service of aggregating data from multiple blockchains. So my next question would go to Bentzi, and I would be interested, what's your point of view regarding the number of chains and the future of the multi-chain environment? Where do you see future going? Are we continuing to operate on a multi-chain environment, or do you see different trends here? So that would be my next question for you.
Yeah, so I think that you know, we developed Utila in a way that it will be easy to integrate to multiple blockchains. There are solutions out there that are like very ecosystem focused, I would say, like for Solana or for EVMs, etc. And I think it's also by the nature of the technology that we use for the key management, as Luke just mentioned, we're using a MPC, multi-party computation, which actually you know, split the private key into a few shards, and then there is no any point of time where they sit on the same location, which considered to be highly secured. But another advantage of MPC is the ability to connect it easily, I would say, to multiple blockchains. And this is what allowed us in Utila to bring from a very early stage the ability to manage crypto assets across multiple chains under one umbrella. Today we support around 20 blockchains, from Bitcoin to EVMs. Also for EVMs, we just added the ability to bring your own RPC. So even if we don't support a specific EVM that you need, you can still very easily add support by yourself in Utila. And of course, you can import almost every token that you want on the chains that we support. And we support Solana and Tron and Cosmos SDK, and adding soon Ton. So on one end, you know, we want to go multi-chain because you know, we see a growing demand for some new growing ecosystems. I think Ton is a pretty good example right now. On the other end, when it comes to payments operations, we do have also clients who are doing trading on Utila. Okay, so we don't have clients who do only payments. By the nature of the product, it can also serve market makers or some like funds doing stuff on DeFi. By the way, some of the treasuries that we serve, they're also pretty active on DeFi, for example. So for them, it's also very important to have the ability to interact securely and easily with smart contracts. So for them, we also developed connectivity to DeFi, which was based so far mostly on Wallet Connect. Now we also developed our own extension. But I would say when it comes to payments, so we see mostly usage on Tron and Ethereum, and some other, like, let's say, layer twos. We do see some, I would say, some volume also on Solana, but that's like the top three. We barely see any other blockchains, when it comes to payments. I think that I don't expect it to grow that much, to be honest. I think it will be mostly consolidated around this. I do think that there are some, challenges. For example, with the gas prices of Ethereum that hopefully will be solved over time. Of course, layer twos already are doing some things, but I'm also talking about the user experience. So in a way, I don't think it's really multi-chain like what we see in trading operations, for example. And I do think, and I don't see any reason that it will go beyond that. I to be honest, yeah, I don't see why a treasury that do mostly payments will need like more than even one blockchain. It's just by the nature of who is receiving the fund. Sometimes in crypto you have some geographies who really prefer Tron, for example. So if you work with them, you will probably need like Tron support. But and of course there are like the Bitcoiners on the other side, and then they will only want the Bitcoin support. So I would say it will be mostly around those. And I would say Tron is something interesting to see, right? By the potential of this blockchain, the amount of people already sitting on the platform, I do think there is a big potential there, even potentially replacing the volumes of Tron at least. So that's something that we are also following from close, and that's why we just added the support for Tone, including Tone tokens and some other jetons. So that's an interesting one to follow.
Well, thanks, Bentzi. And yeah, we focused a lot today on the topic of challenges, but for sure it's also important to focus on how can we overcome those challenges. And in the audience today, we have a lot of CFOs, and therefore my question would be to you, Luke. What advice you would give to other CFOs in the Web3 finance area, considering how to best manage and how to efficiently manage your crypto assets?
Yeah, I think the advice I give would be a good segue off of the question that you asked, Bentzi, is you're asking about other blockchains and trends and things like that. I think it's very easy to get overwhelmed and confused by the vast amount of information and options that you have when it comes to cryptocurrency, using air quotes. I think it's super important to initially, frame your problem set very clearly, write it down and communicate it to, your key advisors, your key stakeholders. What is the problem that we're trying to solve? Are we trying to solve a treasury problem because we think the US economy is about to implode on itself? Are we trying to solve a payments problem because we're at a risk of being debanked from our bank and we can't seem to get other banking? Are we trying to solve a real world asset tokenization problem? What is the exact problem that we're trying to solve? And I think writing that down and setting parameters around what is the optimal outcome of the solution of that problem is a really strong, starting point. I think from there, now you can start to unpack the tools and the toolbox that can help you solve that problem. If you're solving, for what is my treasury asset? Is it Bitcoin? Okay, is it an Utila that allows you flexibility, at the cost of simplicity? Or is it something like a hardware wallet with a multi-sig that would allow you, maybe more security, but at the cost of flexibility and ease of using it? Like there's going to be a spectrum that these tools live on. And this is sort of where I'm tying it back to your last question, is a lot of these, blockchains, they allow for flexibility and malleability, but at the cost of, something that's ossified, something that's fixed. And I think that's where you lose a lot of, and I'm getting a little bit philosophical here, but that's where you lose a lot of the power in crypto, because, you know, at the end of the day, cryptocurrency was designed to be decentralized, to exist outside of a central authority. And when you're creating new blockchains and new tokens for the sole purpose of trying to do everything on a blockchain, you lose a lot of that decentralized power, because it has to be centralized, it has to be controlled to allow for adaptations and modifications. And that's the trend that I don't particularly like. I think there's a trend right now of people wanting to put everything on the blockchain, which I think is silly, right? The blockchain is there, it's a tool and it serves a purpose. But when you're talking about real world assets, does it need to live on a blockchain, right? Do I want my house in Próspera to be potentially sold and me kicked out, you know, against my will because someone got a hold of my seed phrase? No, certainly not. So I think there's tools that exist in Web3, and some of those tools are great for payments being, you know, stable coins, and for treasury asset being Bitcoin. Those tools are awesome, but I think you need to clearly define what your problem set is first, and really think about if the tool is solving for that problem. You know, when you're solving money, is it better to be on a Bitcoin standard using Lightning? Is it better to be using a stable coin on something like Liquid, right? Like getting a feel for what is the whole universe of tools that you have access to is a big challenge, but I think it's important to make sure that you're making the best decision with the information you have, because there's a lot of people out there who are going to lead you one way or the other. They're very dogmatic, right? Bitcoiners are notoriously dogmatic with regards to Bitcoin is like the only thing, right? You know, a Bitcoin maximalist is someone who sees no value in anything that's not Bitcoin. You know, me, I take more of a meritocratic approach. It's like, you know, Bitcoin is the best money. You know, stable coins serve a purpose for payments, and they exist on a non-Bitcoin blockchain. And that's a decision that you have to make sort of with your key stakeholders and make sure that you understand it. So that would be, you know, my key advice to any CFO looking to get into this space, is really be clear on what the problem that you're trying to solve is, because you might be over-engineering a solution when something simple might work, and vice versa. You might be oversimplifying a solution, creating, you know, danger where something more complex needs to be in place. So hopefully that makes sense, but that's sort of my 2 cents and then some.
Very nice. Thanks, Luke. Also, we have a Q&A session in the end of the call, so please post your questions in the comment on the right side. We are ready at the last question for Bentzi. After that, we will go to the Q&A, and we were quite fast, so we'll have a little bit longer for Q&A today. My last question would go to you, Bentzi, and I would be interested what you think are the most important upcoming innovation developments in the Web3 finance space.
Yeah, so I think maybe two things. So one thing, that when it comes to, you know, operational crypto, mostly around payments, gas is definitely a big pain. Gas, energy, and Tron, etc. And I do think that one interesting innovation is anything around solving gas, right? So a few examples. The one is like you know, in USDC there is EIP 3009, which is actually the way a gasless transaction. So imagine you can, you know, move USDC and you don't need all the time to take care of the gas to tap Ethereum into the wallet, etc. So that's like a very interesting innovation that I think you know, in the end it's solving one of the most annoying, I would say, user experience challenges today when it comes to operational crypto. There is the next upgrade of Ethereum, Pectra, that's supposed to enter EIP, I think 3074, which I think also will be something similar, like the ability to move, you know, Ethereum, and you don't need to take all the time to take care of the gas of it. So I would say innovations like that can be very helpful, especially for crypto operations. I would say that in Utila we build mechanisms that enable some of our clients to handle gas in an easy way. So one thing is like a gas station. So this is mostly relevant if you are, let's say, receiving payments, for example, from multiple payees, and then for each one of them, you need to create a unique deposit address due to privacy, okay, or attribution, and then you want to sweep them into a main treasury. So all the time you need to think about tapping gas into this unique addresses, and then you have like a crypto debt challenge that some of the gas is staying there, and also operationally it's not very efficient. So we have the ability that pays automatically gas from multiple wallets. We also created another layer which is like based on account abstraction, so you can easily like get payments and then move them automatically into a main treasury, like a light smart contract sitting on each address. So I would say one development or innovation is anything around gas management. And maybe another thing is like solutions around privacy, another pain that I mentioned before. Today, I don't think there is a good solution. So I think that especially for treasuries, we see many cases where there is an exchange in the middle, and the exchange is used to, let's say, to move the payments to there, and then from there just to get it internally, and then no one from the outside have like the real addresses, etc. Or when you want to pay out, the same. You do it through the exchange, and then no one can really track back how much you pay for each other. We do work in Utila actually in innovation. I cannot share a lot in this call, but we do work on something pretty innovative that will enable treasuries to, I would say, do payments or accept payments in a privacy-preserving way. So stay tuned, I would say, but this is like something that we are very excited about. I think besides that, maybe some other thing is Mika in Europe. I think it's a good signal. What's happening there? One of the main things that was missing in crypto is regulatory and clarity around it, and I think that Mika is a great example, and I hope that more geographies will follow that. It's also put more focus on why it's important to have security measurements, compliance, etc. And I think this will drive like more traditional players to enter the space. So Mika, Dora, everything around it, I think it's another exciting development coming into action next year. So that's from my perspective.
Cool. Thanks, Bentzi. Is there anything from your side you want to share before we jump into the last part of our webinar, which would be the Q&A? Perfect. Okay, cool. Then our next part would be answering some questions from the audience. We received 2 questions so far. One is like quite an interesting one from Umar, and the question would be, what tool stack would you recommend a new CFO using cryptocurrencies for operations? Maybe Luke, would that be a good question for you to answer?
Yeah, definitely. I think, it goes back to what I said initially. I think, defining what problem it is you're trying to solve, and then determining what tool stack makes sense to solve that problem. So when you're saying, using cryptocurrency, that's a bit broad. I would say narrow that down to, what are you exactly trying to do? Are you trying to hold Bitcoin as a treasury reserve asset? Are you trying to, maybe you're a small business and you want to be able to accept Bitcoin for payments, or maybe you want to start paying vendors in Bitcoin, something like that. And depending on the answer to that question, you're going to get a different tool stack that I would recommend, using. Specifically, I'd say, Umar, if you're a small business and you're maybe even a sole proprietor, you don't need an overly complicated solution. You can get a hardware wallet. Ledger is a great brand. They support all the different, common chains of of cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and others. And you, if you're a sole proprietor, you can set that up, and you can send addresses, you can send Bitcoin, you can hold Bitcoin very safely, writing down your seed phrase and doing it, in a very self-custodial way. You'll be the sole owner and sole controller of those crypto assets. If you're in a bigger company, like I was saying before, you have a board of directors and you have a C-suite. You need to define your crypto strategy in accordance with what the governance mandate is. So according to some sort of spending control, something like that. And where there's complexity like that, I think a great tool obviously is Utila for that, because it allows you that flexibility. So I'd say it's on a spectrum, and I would keep it as simple as possible and sort of, add complexity only once it's needed.
Thanks, Luke. Our next and last question. So if someone else wants to add a question, please feel free. I think we have time for 2 more, but only one is posted here from Sai. And the question would be for you, Bentzi. Would you recommend American companies hold Bitcoin, or better for international? So American or international companies, for whom it's better to hold Bitcoin?
I always recommend holding Bitcoin, of course. To be honest, I'm not sure if I'm the right person.
Short and clear answer. Yeah.
Maybe Luke has better thoughts about it than myself. But,
yeah, I'm in your camp, Bentzi. I'm agnostic to location. I think if you can hold Bitcoin, and wait to see what happens was my personal recommendation. But American companies have a lot more certainty in recent months than they ever have around Bitcoin. There's more institutional adoption. The SEC approved the Bitcoin ETF. It seems like, the regulators are coming around to this idea. They've stated that Bitcoin isn't a security, and that's a very, very, very important distinction to make of whether or not a crypto asset is a security or not. So American companies, generally speaking, are able to do this in a way that's, not in direct conflict with the business plan, I'd say. The other thing on the accounting side is, FASB has released more guidance around crypto assets that go into effect, I believe, December of this year, where we can revalue them now at their fair value. So there's a lot going for American companies that are maybe under US GAAP now than there was before. There's a lot more now than there was before. So I think, I'd recommend American companies obviously holding. I'd recommend any company holding it as a treasury reserve asset. But yeah, certainly American companies can do this with a lot more peace of mind now that the regulators have fallen in place and the accounting standards are also supporting, Bitcoin and how it's recorded on your balance sheet for sure.
Thanks, Luke. So that also concludes our session. Big thanks to you, Bentzi. Thanks also to you, Luke. It was really great to learn from you. And also big thanks to all our Web3 Finance Club participants. Our next event will be happening in person at Token 2049 in Singapore. There will be a breakfast event for members, members are invited. And now we are ending this session. Maybe Bentzi and Luke, you want to share how the participants can reach you if they have some follow-up question, if they want to contact you?
Yeah, of course. So I'm just sharing my Telegram handle here. So feel free to reach out, Ben from Utila. Or also my email, bentzi@utila.io.
Awesome. And you can reach me on LinkedIn. I'm /Real Satoshi, but you can hit me up there. So happy to connect.
Perfect. Thanks again. It was a pleasure, Bentzi and Luke. It was a pleasure to meet you today. And all the best. See you soon. Goodbye to all the participants of the Web3 Finance Club. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.